Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the iPhone 16 Plus and compare it against the iPhone 14 Pro Max and see which particular iPhone is a better one for you. Now, I will definitely tell you when it comes down to both these devices, there isn't really one that is like, the best one in every single area. There's no clear winner here, but I do think probably for a lot of people, a phone like something like an iPhone, 14 Pro Max, even though it came out 2 years ago, can still hold up very, very well compared to something like an iPhone 16 Plus. So we'll take a look at all these phones throughout this whole entire video. But if you want to pick up either one of these devices, links will be down in the description. You can find them in the links down below for the cheapest prices I find on Amazon. And you can help support the channel at the exact same time. Now, starting off with the outside of both these phones, the iPhone 14 Pro Max, which came out back in 2022, on the front side of this phone is giving you a Super Retina XDR OLED display. And it's a very, very good panel. It's not the brightest panel of all time, but it's still a very good, sharp panel for the most part, and it is one of those devices that I actually like a lot. So with this type of screen, what you're basically getting is it's a dynamic island, which we all probably know about. It's also pretty big. It's, ProMotion, and it also has ProMotion technology inside of it, which is the 120Hz display. This is without a doubt one of the biggest assets for this type of phone. Being able to go through and buy a phone that is something like a iPhone 14 Pro Max that is still giving you that 120Hz display is something that is so awesome. It's so cool, and I'm personally a big fan of that type of display when it comes down to it. So this is something that's really cool. It's also giving you an always-on display as well. With the iPhone 16 Plus, this phone is giving you the same size display, so it's still 6.7 inches, which is really nice. I feel like it has thinner bezels on it, but it's still kind of like neck and neck. You're getting the dynamic island on this phone as well. It does get brighter as far as I know on the iPhone 16 Plus than the iPhone 14 Pro Max, but that's kind of it, right? Every single way you can imagine, the iPhone 16 Plus isn't really as good of a panel as the iPhone 14 Pro Max, which is probably what's expected. With something like the 14 Pro Max, like I said, this is a very, very good phone. Like, I like that phone a lot, but if you're going to go through and get a phone, definitely something like the iPhone 14 Pro Max on the front, I think is probably the better one here, probably for the everyday average person. So at least from that side, that kind of covers it up there. Now on the bottom, and this is probably one of the biggest advantages I would say for the iPhone 16 Plus. So something like the iPhone 16 Plus, you're basically getting a USB Type-C port inside of that phone, whereas on the iPhone 14 Pro Max, you're essentially getting a really big thing here. You are actually getting a, Lightning port. And this in and of itself is a really big change here. Being able to go through and get a phone like on the iPhone 16 Plus that's going to be giving you that USB Type-C port is very massive. And I do think if you're going to go through and pick up a phone, like this is by far one of the biggest advantages I would say for something like the iPhone, 16 Plus. On top of that, the iPhone 16 Plus is also giving you that camera button, which is really cool to have. If you want to, mess around with it, you have that capability. You're getting the action button on the iPhone 16 Plus as well. On the back side, you're getting your frosted glass back, which is really nice to have. Sorry for the hammering downstairs. I don't know what's going on. You're getting a dual camera setup on the iPhone 16 Plus as well. The iPhone 14 Pro Max is giving you that triple camera setup with the LiDAR sensor. So this in and of itself could be another feature set for something like the iPhone 14 Pro Max. Now on top of that, if you didn't think there was more, you're getting, like I said, frosted glass backs on both, MagSafe capability on the backside of both of them as well, IP certification on both these phones which hold up very, very well. And overall, what I'll definitely tell you on the outside of both these phones, they look very good. I love the way they perform and look. Is there one that's way better? I don't know if there's one that's way better, but the 14 Pro Max I think is probably the one that I think looks probably better overall on the exterior than something like the 16 Plus. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there for the most part. Now on top of that, another very big thing going on here too is the fact that with something like the iPhone 14 Pro Max, this phone isn't as expensive as the 16 Plus is in the brand new market. The 16 Plus is $900. The 14 Pro Max is basically less than probably $600 in the used market, which could be a really big advantage for something like the iPhone 14 Pro Max. So once again, from that side as well, kind of keep that in mind too. Now, on top of that, when it comes down to the camera side, both phones are giving you pretty good cameras you probably would have expected. With something like the iPhone 15 or the iPhone 16 Plus, this is giving you that dual camera setup. So it's giving you a wide, an ultra-wide camera. Whereas on something like the iPhone 14 Pro Max, this particular phone is basically giving you a triple camera setup, wide ultra-wide telephoto lens. Both can do 4K 60 on the front and the back. But the big advantage here for something like the iPhone, 16 Plus is the fact that you are actually getting, the next generation portraits and focus mode and all that stuff, which is nice. You're getting spatial photo and video. You're also getting not as much zooming in as you'd think on the 14 Pro Max, 3x zoom on the 14 Pro Max, 2x zoom on the iPhone 16 Plus. So that could be kind of an advantage for something like the iPhone 16 Plus, because you don't even have a dedicated telephoto lens, but it's still performing pretty well even without it. So that I think is one big thing to keep in mind there too. On top of that, another very big thing is that you are getting that dedicated camera button inside of the iPhone 16 Plus. So this is a very big asset for something like the 16 Plus, because you're able to go ahead and get a phone like that and still get a really good performing device, which is really, really cool. So this in and of itself, I would say, is another really awesome thing going on for that type of phone. On top of those things with the iPhone, both are going to be performing fairly well from the camera standpoint, but it is quite obvious that in my opinion, the iPhone 14 Pro Max might be the better one here and there, but the 16 Plus is going to perform really well too. Now, from a software performing standpoint, this is also another very big thing to keep in mind here too. So when it comes down to which phone is going to perform at a better level for the majority of time, something like the iPhone 16 Plus is going to be a longer lasting phone than the iPhone 14 Pro Max. So if you're wanting a phone that's going to be lasting you for a longer period of time, it pretty much is going to be something like an iPhone 16 Plus, right? That is going to be the phone that's going to be the longer lasting one in almost every single time. So as always, if you're trying to go and get a phone that's going to be the longer lasting one here, it probably is going to be the iPhone 16 Plus, which is really, really cool. Now, I will tell you, with that being said, I will still say something like the iPhone 14 Pro Max is going to be lasting for many, many years as well. It's not like that device is going to be outdated today. That device is still going to be here for a long period of time too. So, as always, when you're going to go through and pick up a phone, just kind of keep that in mind, but in my opinion, that kind of covers it up from that side as well. Now, from the, speed comparison, I guess, and from the chipset side, the iPhone 14 Pro Max is giving you the Apple A16 chip inside of it with 6 gigabytes of RAM, where the iPhone 16 Plus is giving you that Apple A18 chip inside of it with 8 gigabytes of RAM. Now, as you probably would expect it from a performance side of things, I will still say in this day and age that a phone like the iPhone 14 Pro Max is still going to perform fairly well. You can't really go wrong with a phone like that. I genuinely think a phone like that is going to perform fairly well for a long duration of its lifetime. And I think that's a really, really nice thing going on for that type of phone. With the 16 Plus, this is clearly the latest and greatest from, Apple. This is going to be one of the best phones you can basically buy. And I do think that's a really, really big advantage for that type of phone. Like if you're wanting the phone that's going to be the faster one, the best one in every single way almost, then something like the iPhone, 14 Pro Max isn't really going to be that the 16 Plus is going to be better, but the 14 Pro Max isn't really like a terrible device when it comes down to it. So I just kind of want to get that out of the way too, because that phone is still performing very, very well even throughout these last couple of years. So overall, what I'll probably tell you is a phone like the iPhone 16 Plus, I think, is probably the latest and greatest. It's like the best of the best that you can basically buy, right? And that type of phone is very good. I think no matter what you're really going to do with it, it's going to perform very, very well. It's going to be probably one of the better phones you can basically buy. Is it perfect? No, but I do think a lot of phones in this day and age aren't necessarily perfect either, and I think that's a totally okay thing. But when it comes down to basically almost every single thing else you could probably imagine, a phone like the iPhone 14 Pro Max for the everyday average person is still probably okay. Like I genuinely think that phone is still very good for the everyday average person, and I do think that would be a very good phone for everyday person to go ahead and buy. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there too. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.